So, Pokemon Fusion is a game where you get the chance to fuse two Pokemon together that either turns out like the coolest OC we've ever seen, or something that physically hurts to look at. But you've probably seen a million videos about this fan hack already, so I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. I'm here to make you uncomfortable by beating the game with the most abhorrent fusions I can possibly get my greasy hands on. And trust me, it's gonna get pretty bad. Please subscribe and like the video, thanks. So we start the game off by getting told that genetic modification of encaptured animals is now legalized, because just enslaving them and forcing them to fight each other didn't seem bad enough, I guess. And we are naturally tasked with going on an adventure and finding all 8 badges to become the Pokemon champion. All pretty standard stuff. So we head over to Professor Oak's lab to receive our starter Pokemon, and we get the choice between Mano, Pinecute and Ratmoth. And I naturally had to go with Ratmoth due to the nature of the run. I hereby dub the Rats. Welcome to the team. Before we get a chance to head out, however, our rival Bradley Shit, yes that's his name, challenges us to a battle with his Mano. And for some weird reason he just keeps spamming Growl, so we easily defeat him by just spamming quick attacks back at him. After that overwhelming win, we head for Viridian City and catch a few Pokemon along the way. Mainly the likes of Spinneevie, Togehoot and Swintorrel. It was almost time to challenge the first gym leader, Brook. But even though I had caught a bunch of Pokemon, we still only had Rats as a main party member. So I thought it was about time we recruited another member to our cause. So I bought some more DNA splicers and infused Spinnerack and Wartortle to try to create a new abomination. But surprisingly enough it turned out pretty cool. So he didn't really fit the bill of the team, but desperate times called for desperate measures. So hesitantly we enlist the help of Wingweb the Spider to take on Brock. After training Wingweb a little, we head for Pewter City Gym, our team consisting of 2 determined little guys. Luckily Brock's goons weren't much of a problem, and Wingweb and Raz are relatively easily able to get through them with water guns and bites. Now the same couldn't really be said about Brock himself. He started off with a Togepi which almost manages to take down Rats, but he luckily just managed to squeeze out the victory with a few bites. Next I sent out Wingweb to take on Brock's Ganix, which luckily goes down with only a few water guns. And with that we got ourselves the first badge and the TM Rock Tomb. After that whole debacle we head for our next badge with confidence. Before heading out to the cave I catch some more horrifying fusions like E-Rock the Eevee Crocodile, Switz the whatever this is, and Ew, the Axew with a Pompadour. We finally get out of Rock Tunnel to Cerulean City, and since we still only have 2 Pokemon on our main team, I decided it was time to try some more fusing to see if I could create some more Yikers. I started by trying to fuse Axew and Crocorock, and oh boy, he looks like he's seen some serious shite. Poor thing looks absolutely traumatized. Anyways, he's perfect and I named him One Piece. Satisfied with the inclusion of the legendary One Piece to our team, I decided it was in order to grind him up a little so he could catch up with the rest of the team. And I'm again reminded why fusing should be illegal, but no time to debate ethics. We have a team of abomination to gather and gym leaders to defeat. But before that we're yet again challenged by Bradley Shit who wants to take us on in another Pokemon battle. He starts off with Nidowild who almost manages to take down Rats. So we naturally switch out to Wingweb, but unfortunately it doesn't take long before he uses a super potion. Wingweb is proving to have a hard time countering him, and he eventually fails. So it's time for One Piece to take up the mantle, and he actually managed to defeat Nidowild. Next up is Malus who just absolutely wrecks my whole team with takedown, and we're eventually defeated. So I naturally just decided to grind a little, and oh no. The crack finally catches up with One Piece's system and he goes batshit on Bradley Shit's whole team with only one move. He's truly an unhinged little gremlin. Now with Bradley Shit out of the way, we make our way to Cerulean Bridge to challenge a few trainers and catch a few Pokemon to get ready to challenge the second gym leader, Misty. And what's that? Looks like Rats is evolving. Oh no. Hey, wanna look at my new Pokemon? Oh yeah, sure. Please leave and never come back. Here I live and pay you. Well, that was rude, but hey, at least he gave us a free ticket to the SSN, so it could be worse. Before challenging the Cerulean City Gym, I decided Wingweb was a little too cool for the group. So I tried refusing him in Whooper, and yeah, he just turned out a little too cute for the team. So I decided it was best to just put him on the bench for now. And with that, we take my current team to fight Misty. She started the battle off with Mudshrew, which I countered with One Piece. Then she followed Mudshrew up with the cursed fusion of Cyndaquil and Wailmer. And I'm starting to notice a pattern in my videos, and I don't like it. Anyway, Syndamere manages to take One Piece down, and it's up to Rats to finish the battle. And since they just learned freaking Hyper Fang, it wasn't exactly a challenge. With Misty beaten and the water badge in hand, I make my way south of Cerulean City to fight my way through some more cursed beasts and eventually make it to Vermilion City where I decided to fuse some more Pokemon. I started with Onix and Sugma. Hey, what's Sugma? Shut up. and it again turned out way too cool. So I tried fusing Wartortle with Shelter, and yeah, it's just a little gremlin. But alas, I finally found something I'm happy with when I fused Zubat and Muck, which leads to this abomination. And call me crazy, but that's legit just a nutsack. Anyways, welcome to the team, Mucksack. I decided to level Mucksack using the SSN, and for some reason I got kicked out for showing the guest there my Mucksack. Rude. I also showed my Mucksack to Lieutenant Church, and he just gave me the badge and told me to never come back. Rude. This event unfortunately made my little Mucksack so insecure that he evolved out of shame and become cool again. So I naturally kicked him off the team. I tried refusing him with Onyx, but it didn't turn out too well, so I decided to just move on for now. Also, Onyx has seen better days. I then got a very funny idea and evolved an audition to Gloom, and fused him with Onyx. And oh boy, he's seen better days. I call him Blarg. Welcome to the team, Blarg. Furthermore, I make my way west through Rock Tunnel to Lavender Town, where I yet again battle Bradley shit. But Blarg is really pulling his weight and just wins by spamming Mega Drain. I also find this fusion in the wild, and I just had to stop to give him a shout out. Just look at him. I also tried doing the reverse fusion, and he just looks plain uncomfortable here. I also tried fusing Muck and Magikarp, and yeah, welcome to the team for now, hurry durry. So we made our way to Celadon City, where I decided to fuse Wigglytuff and Machoke, and yeah, I hate it. He's called John Satra. We also help Erika vandalize some random sewers by flooding them with water, which makes Giovanni pretty pissy since they apparently had a base there or something. Anyways, I had completely forgotten to heal at this point, so basically my entire team was down when Giovanni suddenly wanted to fight. But for some reason I had this Shedmer dude on deck as a random capture from earlier, and he just refused to get hit even once and took down Giovanni's whole team without even breaking a sweat. 10 levels under his own Pokemon, didn't elaborate and left. What a guy. Before challenging Erika, I decided to try fusing some more Pokemons like Swampster, Growmer, Blazemer, and Drowizard. What a guy. I also managed to make this abomination with Raikou and Shinshu. I ended up beating most of them in the team for now. So we got to the gym to take on Erika, which was surprisingly easy. I just spammed a few Hyper Fangs and oh no, what happened to you, Lucario? And finished the fight with a few Mega Drains from Blarg and a few Dragon Rages from One Piece. After that we head back to the Pokemon Tower where we received the Flutat and Wake sleeping Pokemon. And unfortunately at this point One Piece evolves and becomes Drippy, which of course means we have to kick him off the team. It's been good, One Piece. At this point I arrived at Fuchsia City, which of course houses the Pokemon Safari, and since this is a randomizer, it's a goldmine of new potential teammates. Some of the highlights from what I found during my time there was Venoliki, Sharpert, Magibro, Blaskmabo, literally just Sonic, Kingvoyer, Magistar and Wanks. After catching all these new Pokemon it was only natural to try to fuse some. So I started with Gardevoir and Snorlax, which turned out surprisingly wholesome, followed by something not so wholesome at all, like holy shit, what was the artist of this right thinking? Licky and Kofagrigas turn out pretty funny. Dragonair and Jinx is just really stylish. Slugma and Cloyster scares me. Victorville and Lickitung, what the fuck. And all the other ones sort of look cool too, especially Piplup and Swampert. Like, how does that even work? Before we challenged Koga, I decided to dedicate some time to grind up the team a little to stand a better chance. When Blarg suddenly evolves, and yeah, it just somehow looks even more dumb with everything now. This is also the point I decided to go pick up the XP share, but I won't be relying on that too much, since I'm constantly changing up my team. And talking about team, this is our current roster of Misfits as we head into our 5th gym battle against Koga. I decided to bring John Satra, Rats and Blarg. Koga starts off with Teddy Cell, which I counter by spamming Seismic Toss until it's down. Next up is Gluttday, which Rats manages to take down with a few Hyper Franks. Next up is Magicell, which also Rats takes down relatively easily, and last is Pillow Art, which I counter with Blarg, who manages to take him down after a few attacks. With that we get the Soul Badge, and then I decide to refuse Charizard with Omnistar, and holy shit, that's scary. I call him welcome to the team. With our new recruiting bag, we head towards Saffron City to casually take down one of Team Rocket's operations, even though we are a literal child with a team of Pokemon that looks like they've been run over by a truck multiple times. And when fighting Giovanni, he barely manages to land a single hit on Blarg since I just spammed Dig. What an incompetent little guy. Also Awuga. Unfortunately at this point John Satra actually evolves into something that looks decent, but I decided to keep him on for now since it's been such a big help so far. But without further ado, I decided to jump straight into Sabrina's gym challenge. And since half my team was already fainted, I literally had to rely just on Rats and a newly refused John Satra, along with a randomly cut underleveled Umbreon and Cloyster fusion. And as you might have already guessed, it went absolutely horribly. So I naturally went back and tried again and literally swept her entire team with Blarg alone, literally just by spamming Petal Blizzards on every single one of her Pokemon. Can you tell I'm a noob at this? But it worked pretty flawlessly, so I won't complain. With the 6th badge in hand, we surf over an equivalent of the entire Atlantic Ocean to get to Cinnabar Island to take on the 7th gym leader, Blaine. But before that I decided to do a quick grind session where I evolved Joltik to Galvantula because I had some terrible ideas, and I fused some more Pokemon like Mudbat and Maglum. I then tried doing Gardevoir and Galvantula and Awooga? I tried doing the same thing with Lopunny, and at this point I'm just confused. Solosis and Onix turned out pretty funny, and Magikarp and Lopunny actually looks pretty cool. And I also find this adorable Zekrom Slowking fusion in a while, and I just have to give him a shout out. But anyway, it's time for Blaine. And I decided to start off with Rats against his Shanrock Go-Go. And it was just a really slow exchanging of attacks that in the end, Rats couldn't take. So I sent out A to take him down with Surf. And holy shit, what is that terrifying abomination? Anyways, A couldn't take him down, so Blarg takes over and gets him with a couple of Stone Edges, which brings out his Wiggly Rose. And yet again I decided Blarg is suited enough to take care of the situation. I just spammed Dig again, like the Pokemon intellect that I am. And it works after like an hour of back and forths. And the last Pokemon he sent out was a fusion between Mew and Dunsparce, which Blarg took down relatively easily with a few Petal Blizzards. And with that we got our second to last gym badge, which means we are nearing the end game. We hear some rumors going around that Team Rocket is planning to capture every legendary bird to fuse them together. So we head south towards Mount Ember to stop their plan, but it looks like we are already too late, as Giovanni manages to fuse the 3 legendaries and creates the first Triad fusion. Looks like it's yet again up to our child to stop the evil organization from world domination. And ZapMolCuno absolutely dominates the whole squad in a matter of seconds, barely without letting me get a single hit on them. It was at this point I realized my team needed a bit of restructuring. So after getting an indirect suggestion for a terrifying fusion combination, I went to work and evolved a Tentacool which I combined with Mime Jr. to create this absolute horrid creature. Anyways, he's a perfect member of the team and I call him Jazz. I also yet again decided to refuse John Sather to get this extremely buff and scary Magikarp. While at the fusion grind I also tried fusing Hexorus and Machamp, which turned out pretty rad, along with this Perchamp fusion. Lastly I tried doing Jinx and Gyarados, and oh boy I think we found our last member of the squad. With a newfound sense of determination and a finalized team of Rascals, I grind. But after that I head back to take on ZapMolCuno yet again. I start off by using Super Fangs on every single one of ZapMolCuno's heads with Rats before switching to Blarg, who unfortunately didn't manage to get a single hit in. Next up was A, who got in one solid Surf that took down the middle head. Unfortunately almost no other teammate could survive the barrage of attacks, but luckily Jazz managed to tank one hit and get one in himself, which took down the second head. After that I switched to Ginny to heal Rats, since I knew he could tank a few hits alone. And with that, Rats was the only one on my team left standing. But luckily with just a few Hyper Fangs, we managed to take down ZapMolCuno and achieve victory. Giovanni gets pissy and runs away. Naturally we follow him to his gym and threaten him to give us his badge or else would press criminal charges against his whole crime organization side hustle. And with that we finally get our last gym badge, which means we can at last head for Victory Road to challenge the Elite Four. With the 8 badges in hand I head for the Victory Road to finish the adventure once and for all. But before getting the chance to enter the cave, Bradley shit challenged us to a battle. I started by taking down his Belisar with a few physics from Jazz. After that I switch out to John Sather, which almost gets taken out by a few Dark Pulses. So just switch out to A to take Genpei out, but his Asmondoe manages to take A out. So I sent out Rats and used a bunch of Hyper Fangs to take down his 2 next Pokemon. Then I switched out to Blarg to slowly chip away his Amphalos. Remember this fucker, he gets very important later. With Blarg almost down I switched out to John Sather, who barely managed to take out his Amphalos along with the rest of Bradley Shit's team. Having spent the whole journey assembling the Avengers of terrifying little creatures, we enter the Pokemon League with great confidence. Time to finally take on the Elite Four. The first Elite Four member is Lorelei, who starts off with Gallade. I didn't really have a solid plan for her team, so I decided to send us out not really knowing what I should do. But I luckily managed to get an Inferno Strike in, which took him down. Next I sent out John Sather to counter a Primalem, which goes terribly as he's quickly taken down. But luckily we got Blarg to save the day by using a few Petal Dances. Her next Pokemon is McKing, which Blarg again manages to do a decent chunk off of, but Eliza switched him out to save him the feint, and sent out Jazz instead, which really didn't manage to do much. So I tried sending out Rats and used a Super Fang to half his HP, but it wasn't quite enough, so Making takes him out with a close combat. So I yet again just sent us out to finish the job with a Surf. And holy shit, what a cool fusion! Seekle turned out to be quite a troublemaker as he takes out A pretty easily, but Blarg is a freaking trooper and takes him out with a few Petal Dances. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it, so I did the exact same thing for a Shinepe. With the first trainer down, it was time for Bruno. And I have had quite enough of this shit, so I just spam Surfs and take down Bruno's entire team alone, with occasional help from Blarg and the others. At this point I noticed that I barely had any revives left, so I'm only able to revive everyone except Jazz and Jenny, which would mean we are officially on the hardcore run of the Elite Four. Next up was the Steel type Elite Four member, Agatha. And now I just spam flamethrowers which basically one-shots her entire team. What a guy. Lastly we go up against Lance. The Dragon type Elite Four member starts the battle off with Victory Liam. And since I is a water type with a greater speed stat, it weren't really a problem just using surfs when he was defeated, even though Blaine kept using potions. Next was probably Gigas, who managed to take out John Satter pretty quickly. So I signed at Blarg to literally just take care of the rest of Blaine's team. And with that, we officially just have one single trainer in a way of becoming champion. And as it turns out, that trainer is Bradley Chilston himself. Having only half my team remaining didn't leave a lot of room for error. But alas, this was no time for overthinking. He started off with Houndville, who is luckily weak against A's ancient power. And since Bradley shit only spammed potions, I just had to keep spamming ancient powers to eventually win. His next Pokemon was really funky as it was basically a painter fusing between Smurgle and another mon. But Blarg was perfect for the situation and took him down easily. Next up was Umtop, who's just the cutest little thing. I stayed at A again, which wasn't the smartest idea in retrospect as none of his moves are particularly good against Umtop. But he luckily managed to still get a few hits in, which took him down. And oh no. If you remembered earlier, this was the Pokemon I foreshadowed to be a goddamn menace. And he's basically super effective against my entire team. And the only one on my team who could survive over one hit from him was Blarg, who didn't have any good moves at all against him. Furthermore, he just kept healing after every turn, which made the net damage even worse than it already was. Rat, surprisingly enough, was actually almost able to take him down alone. But unfortunately it wasn't enough, as the whole team got wiped after a good attempt. Without a good way to counter his Amphigon, there wasn't really a lot I can do. So I went back to the drawing board and decided my best option was to teach A an ice type move. But as it turns out, that shit is expensive as frickle nuts. Without going into too much detail, the next couple hours was spent by me buying monkey paws of a shady Team Rocket member that only shows up after midnight, to sell them to an old lady who inflates the buying price each day, which is basically a get rich quick scheme within the Pokemon world, which allowed me to buy Ice Beam, which is super effective against his Amphigon. But of course I gets one shot. Well, with those hours in the drain, I sent out Blarg, who miraculously managed to take down Amphigon after trading hits and using full restores for what felt like minutes on end. Up next was Coffertress, and he just wouldn't stop spamming Destiny Bond, which allowed Blarg to take him down with only a few petal dances. But of course, due to Destiny Bond, Blarg goes down with him. And at this point I only had John Satter and Rats left against his last Pokemon, Schneid. And since I really didn't want to lose at this point, John Satter champs it out and managed to take a bunch of hits, which allows me to heal Blarg and A. And Rats unfortunately gets one shot, but I absolutely crushed the competition with 2 flamethrowers. And with Bradley shit finally defeated, we go to the Hall of Fame to claim our position as champion. And we register our Avengers of Misfits as heroes in their field. How did we manage to win this?